Today, we are going to be talking about mistakes that I have made recently as a business owner. If you're new around here, my name is Nathan Chansky. This is the Passion with Purpose podcast, and this is a place where I share how to run your business successfully, how to run your business smoothly. And yet, guess what? I make mistakes sometimes. I fail sometimes, and I don't run my business perfectly 24/7 every single day at all hours of the day. So I'm going to run this episode and I'm going to get really vulnerable and real with you guys. And why am I doing this? Because I remember when I used to be listening to podcasts like this myself, and I used to look up to certain coaches or certain people who had a lot of influence in the photography industry or in the business industry, whether it was, course creators, educators, coaches, podcasters. And I remember there were so many people that I looked up to, and they would share so many things that were great tips and great advice, but they would act like they would never mess up themselves. And they did everything that they preached about perfectly 24/7. And so it just kind of actually got to this point where it really made me struggle with these certain people because I know that we all make mistakes. And then it made me feel like because they would never be real about like, hey, yeah, sometimes like this doesn't work perfectly, or sometimes I make this mistake. It made me not want to listen to them because it felt like they were always talking down to me and like condescending, and they were never at my level. Like they were never like human enough to be at my level. So I don't want to fall into that pitfall of giving this illusion that Nathan Chansky always does everything perfectly right 100% of the time. So I thought, what if we open up some of my own mistakes or failures in business? And I'm not even going to be like, oh yeah, these are things that I did years and years ago, like back when I like didn't know what I was doing. No, these are things that I have messed up on or failed at or whatever have you. And just like little things that have happened to me in the past, like maybe a couple months or so, very recently. And not too far off. And it's vulnerable to share these things. I know it actually really is vulnerable, but I want to share these because I want to get down to earth with you guys. So, by the way, I will say I have a couple of these, but stick around for the last one because it's actually the most frustrating and embarrassing one. And it's something that has actually never happened to me before as a photographer. And it's what kind of was the catalyst to giving you this whole episode. So the first mistake or failure that I made very recently, and I guess this wasn't so much a failure, but it was definitely maybe a mistake a little bit where I like had to backpedal, is that I was actually going to run a live workshop this month to launch my business blueprint coaching program as kind of a way to promote it a little bit, to give people like a peek behind the curtain. And many of you have probably attended my workshops, my live workshops, or you can call them a webinar. And I remember as I was like kind of building this out, I was so frustrated because there were so many different moving parts. There was like, I had to create the landing page. I had to create like the back end workflow, all the like nurture email sequence, like all the connecting different parts. And it was just so much work. And I was getting so worked up about it and so stressed about it. And it defeated me. Like it really, really defeated me because I don't know why this one was causing me so much frustration. But then like I was also working with my meta ads expert, and he was like kind of struggling because I don't know why he was struggling, but he was struggling to connect all the dots between the ad and the landing page and all these things. Anyways, I actually, even after I launched it, I backpedaled and I canceled the entire live workshop. And I had to email everybody that had like registered for it and say, hey, I actually there's too many things going on in my life right now. And I kind of bit off more than I can chew. And I'm not going to be hosting this live workshop anymore. It's just not the right season for me. Things are not clicking into place. Things are not working. And so I had to backpedal. And it was kind of like this little moment of like, this is embarrassing. Like I promised something. And then I'm like, basically, we're not going to do it. We're going to abandon ship. Instead, I offered something else. I offered like little live 15-minute calls to people who were on the fence about joining the business blueprint if they had registered for the workshop. So we made do, and it was like amazing. I actually liked doing that better. But it was one of those situations where, I felt kind of like, okay, this was like a boo-boo on my part. This just like kind of biffed, and okay, move on, right? Okay, so my second failure or boo-boo that I made very recently was, and by the way, this is coming from me, I'm all about clear client communication. I'm all about responding to your clients as much as you possibly can. And so I dropped some client communication with one of my brides. And this is very recently, by the way, multiple times. Okay. So it was basically a situation where I message my clients in Honeybook, and that's my CRM. That's where we do all our correspondence. And I had obviously like set everything up with this bride in Honeybook, and that's how we were communicating. But then for whatever reason, between me and my assistant, there were like at least two different cases while corresponding with this bride. And this is after she had booked me, where I just like did not see the notifications in my Honeybook. And obviously, something like this can happen from time to time. Is just kind of like a little bug or a snafu, like, oh, it got lost in translation. But it happened with this bride on two separate occasions. So even once was like really annoying and I felt really stupid about it, but then it happened again to the same bride. And so it was at this point where the client, she basically had to resort to like texting to get my attention because it wasn't getting through in my emails. So come to find out, it's like, yeah, again, it was kind of like this situation where between me and my assistant, you're checking so many emails every morning, every single day. And sometimes things just fall through the cracks, as even if you do your absolute darndest to get through everything. And for some reason, there must have been some miscommunication between me and my assistant where like someone was like, oh, you're responding to that one, but then like I didn't. And then, or she said she was responding to it and then she didn't or something. Anyways, it's on me. I'm the business owner. It's all on me. I'm responsible. And so it was what it was. I had to like put my tail between my legs and be so apologetic to the bride and say like, I'm so sorry. This is so on me. I can't believe you even had to text to get a hold of me. Like, this is ridiculous. So at that point, I also rectified the situation by just giving her my direct email address instead of going through Honeybook, because I was like, listen, if Honeybook is failing us in this way, which I don't know if it was Honeybook's fault or my fault or my whatever, but I was like, just email me here. Anyways, all this to say, I messed up. I made a mistake. Okay. Mistake and failure number 3. The last time I opened the business blueprint. Okay. So every time I open my business blueprint coaching program, which is like the main thing I do, and that's like coaching program for photographers to teach them business. I actually had a situation where I had accidentally put in like the wrong links. I had made, if you know anything about what's called UTM links, it's basically, it shows the tracking on where people are clicking from to get to your page. And so anyways, I had basically created those UTM links incorrectly somehow, to the point where as I was launching my business blueprint, like the first email that's basically like, all right, you get to join, which is arguably like the most important time to get the link right, the links were wrong. And I had a bunch of people emailing me back and being like, Nate, you sent us to a dead or broken link. I was like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. So it was just like, it was on me that happened, because I don't know what happened. Obviously, you do your best to check everything twice, but it happened and the links were wrong for some reason. And actually, it didn't only happen once. It happened like with two different emails, I think, during that entire launch period, where there was another link, and I think it was actually linking to a replay of the live workshop that I was running at that time. And that link also was like broken somehow. And I just look at it and I'm like, how did this happen? Like, I checked everything so many times. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're so meticulous, you're so careful to do everything right, and yet I still made a blunder. And obviously it was all okay. You email people back and you say, I'm so sorry, this happened, blah, blah, blah. It's actually funny when you email like your email list and you say, I made a mistake, this is my bad, or this is embarrassing. It's so funny because people actually click on those emails the most. Like, they want the tea. So it actually might have worked in my favor in a way, because more people clicked on that. I think that was like the highest open rate for any of my emails. Like, people actually opened it the most when I was like, this is embarrassing, I sent you the wrong link. And people are like, ooh, what did he do? Like, I don't know. But Anyways, another boo-boo. Okay, my fourth boo-boo. This is getting awkward now. I just feel like every bone in my body just wants to stop now. But we're gonna keep trudging ahead. Fourth blunder I made very recently. So in the past like couple months, I have a lot of different contractors that I work with, or I guess subcontractors you could say, but it's people who do work for me. They're not employees of me, but they work on behalf of something I need done, right? And so I'm paying them on a specific job basis. Well, there was a recent contractor, and they don't like let's just say this. They're so like laissez-faire with me paying them and all that kind of stuff. They're so understanding to the point where I forgot to pay them for like a huge job that they'd done for me. Like just completely forgot. And I think it went on for like 2 months that I hadn't paid them. And then I realized it months later, and they were too kind to say anything, bless their heart. But I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I never even paid you for this task. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So I felt stupid. I was like, I can't believe this. But you pay them, and I try to even like add a little bit on top too to rectify the situation. But that's okay. Fourth mistake that Nathan made. Here we go. We're in too deep now. Number 5 mistake that I made. I had, and this one's a little smaller, so I feel like this is a good one to like. This gives me a good break because it's not that big of a mistake. But I had on my site, on my mobile site, I had some just like it wasn't. There was a certain page that wasn't optimized in a certain section, and I actually had gotten on a prospect call with someone who was like a prospective student for the business blueprint, and we were talking about different things, and he was actually like, hey, by the way, there's a part of your website where there's like overlapping text and you can't even read it. It's just like you need to go back in and optimize your mobile site. So I went back, and sure enough, there was overlapping text and you couldn't read the specific part of my website. And this is so funny to me because I'm always telling people like, audit your site, make sure there's no typos, make sure everything's legible, make sure everything's readable. And yet Nathan Chansky did not get everything perfect himself because I'm still human. Do you know what I'm saying? So happens. But that one's like, I feel like that one's a little bit forgivable. Okay. The last and final one that's kind of, it's the juiciest one, and hopefully you stuck around for it. And this is actually kind of the reason I made this whole episode, because this one actually really bothered me a lot, and it just happened within the past week. Okay. So let me go back. So this all began with a wedding that I was shooting for my, I mean, she's my friend too, but she's like, especially my wife's really good friend named Beth. Okay. So Beth has always been a really close friend of ours for the past couple of years. She was started as a coworker with Kayla back when Kayla was working at this doctor's office, and Beth was a nurse. Anyway, we've gotten to know her really well. We like prayed for a spouse to come to her, and then finally like this guy comes, and like they fall in love, all this stuff. Anyways, Beth has always been like, I want you to be my wedding photographer. Like that's what she always had said, which is so cool. And I was like, absolutely, yes, let's do that. So I shot Beth's wedding about a month ago now. And so, of course, like you edit the photos, like you take all the photos, you edit the photos, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't think there was any issues with anything throughout this entire process. I had sent her preview photos, like all the images were backed up. Everything was on my SD cards. Everything was double written. It was all great, right? And so I'd even sent off the gallery to be edited by my editing team on editors. Anyway, so it's all great. As I'm uploading the final gallery, and then I'm making the final slideshow video in PicTime to make sure that she gets a beautiful slideshow, I start noticing that there's a spot from the wedding day that I remember that's just not in my photos. And so it's the spot where they did a final dance. Okay. So the bride and the groom, Beth and David, their names are, they did a final dance in the reception space, and everybody else, all the guests went outside to kind of prepare for the send off, where you like throw things or do sparklers. Right. So they're having their final dance. I'm taking photos of their final dance. And then from the final dance, they went into that like send off, and the send off it was pretty chill. They didn't have like, I could tell that wasn't like the most significant part of their day necessarily. They didn't really do a sparkler send off. They didn't really have anything specific ready for it. They just had people kind of throwing different flowers that were already on the tablescapes. And so they were like, yeah, we're just gonna kind of do that, whatever, and just like whatever happens, happens. Anyways, so I'm going through my photos and I'm noticing there are no photos of that send off moment. I have photos of the final dance. I have photos of Beth and David behind the doors about to enter that send off. And then there's this gap. And then suddenly I have photos of them getting in their getaway car and driving away. But there's nothing in between their final dance, that seeing them right at the doors about to walk out, and then in between, like while they're supposed to be running through like the arch of people or the people throwing petals at them or whatever have you. That's just gone. And I'm like, what? So I go back to the SSD, my storage device, and I'm looking through and I'm like, what in the world? They're not in here. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go back to my SD cards. And so I go back to my SD cards, both sets of them, because I never delete. I don't want to delete SD cards, at least one copy of them until everything is delivered for these reasons. So I go back and I'm like, what if something didn't transfer well? So I go back to the SD cards, to my CF Express cards. Nothing. There's no photos written on those cards from that moment. And I'm like, what is going on? I remember taking photos for that moment, like I clear as day. And so then my wife, Kayla, she's like, no, I have footage of you taking photos for that moment. Like there's footage of me from behind. My flash is going off, like everything is working. It's so weird. The photos just aren't there. Like there's actually a gap in the file names where it goes like CR63, and then it goes 18. And then the next photo in the list is when they're getting into a getaway car, and it's like the ending number isn't 18, it's 43. So between 18 and 43, there's like about 20 photos that are just missing. So weird. Anyways, all this to say, I still do not know where these photos are. By the way, if anybody, especially on YouTube or on Spotify, if you want to comment and be like, Nate, this is actually what happened, please let me know. I've heard that it could be, I was even asking Claude, I was like, is this possible? Because this has never happened to me in my entire career, that photos were taken, but they weren't written. Like I didn't take my battery out. I didn't take the cards out. Like they just aren't there. And so Claude basically said it might be a situation where the camera, because it was working so hard and like flashing, like it wasn't writing the photos or something. I don't know. But anyways, at the end of the day, it sucked because I had to go back to Beth and be like, hey, I don't have photos from that moment. I am so incredibly sorry. Like that moment is just gone. And obviously I might still do a little sleuthing to figure out if I can find those back. We'll see. Maybe I'll be able to get them back, or maybe if someone comments, I may be able to get them back. But still, like it was a super vulnerable, embarrassing moment for me, even though conceivably I didn't do anything wrong. Like I did my absolute best. There was nothing I felt like I could have. There's nothing I was irresponsible in. And so I'm just like, what happened here? That is so weird. But again, it was a failure on my part. And like, I am at the end of the day responsible for the things that happen. And it just like brought me back to this idea that like, you can do every single thing in your power to try to make something perfect and to try to make your performance sublime. But sometimes you can still mess up, especially as a photographer. And some things are just out of your control. And I guess my message here is I want you to give grace to yourself in these type of situations. Obviously, I would love it if out of this episode, you're not thinking to yourself, wow, Nathan's really a sucky business owner. Like, I can't believe I listened to him as a business coach, right? Maybe someone's going to think that. I'm honestly willing to risk someone potentially thinking that, because I want you to know that I'm a human too. Because I want you to know that if you have made mistakes, you're in good company. These things happen. And if anybody out there is trying to make you think that they are just so high and mighty that they never make mistakes, whether it's like another coach or another industry leader or whatever have you, BS. I have talked to, it's actually fascinating being in the, like, being amongst educators and being in like the back rooms when you're at a workshop together and you're having discussions, or being in DMs with people who you're rubbing shoulders with, who you maybe before you looked up to and you thought they were just so perfect. I'll tell you this right now, you guys. I have heard some of the most interesting, fascinating stories on some of the biggest industry leaders and how imperfect they are. And I don't say that to like put them down. I just say that to give you a window behind, we're all human. I promise you that. And so that's why I'm also sharing this, because again, these are things I preach, and yet I'm not perfect either. So I want to give you what would I say? A little and so about all of this. Um, and there are four things. Okay. When you mess up, because you probably will, or when you fail, here's what I want you to do. Number one, I want you to give yourself grace first and foremost. Um, in the words of the great sage Hannah Montana, nobody's perfect. Okay, my wife will be proud of me for that one. But seriously, nobody is perfect. So you have to give yourself grace. This world is full of thorns and thistles, as the Bible says, and it is cursed by the fall of mankind in an imperfect world. So your work will never be perfect. You will never be perfect. Give yourself grace. Okay. Number two, be willing to fix your mistakes. If you can look at a mistake and be like, yep, I made a mistake, make them right if you can, right? Like I had to go back to Beth and be like, I can't believe I did this, but I did this. And I didn't want to wait until she discovered it on her own, because I could have been like, well, she might not care. Like she might not notice. I'm going to tell her about it before she says anything. And she was so cool with it. She was so fine. I understand she's a good friend. So she was like very understanding. I don't even think she cared at all, but I know there's brides out there who would have been really upset. And so I understand that some of you, that's like maybe a situation you've been in. But it's an opportunity for you to show your character, your true character to someone when you are willing to fix your mistake and make it right, make it up to them in some way. If you can go above and beyond to make it up to them even. Number three thing I want you to kind of take from this is learn. Mistakes and failures are some of the biggest ways that I've learned things in my business and in my life. Don't waste a failure. Don't waste a mistake. That's a moment. That's an opportunity, right? Sometimes that's actually where I've learned the most in my career. Number four thing, get your butt back on the horse. Don't you dare quit because you made some mistake, because you failed in some way. Do not take failure, do not take a mistake as your identity. So I always tell people, do not say phrases like do not say phrases like I am such a bad business owner, or I always mess things up, or I am such a failure. Because when you take on those identities, I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You are going to act that way if you tell yourself that that's who you are. Rather, just state a fact that says, I did such and such a thing at one time, or I messed up in this way, right? Because that's a fact. That's not an identity. That's a fact. That's a thing that happened. Or to say, I failed at such and such a thing. I missed my client's correspondence to me, period. And you can fix that, right? Instead of saying, I am such a bad communicator, or instead of saying, I'm such a bad photographer, instead saying, no, I missed some photos from a wedding because my camera kind of malfunctioned on me, but I'm going to do better next time. I'm going to figure out why this happened, right? So don't claim identity. A thing happened. You did not change as a person. Your worth did not change as a person. Your potential did not change unless you make it so. Your calling in the Lord did not change. You just made a mistake. And if you don't let it crush you, it's going to be okay. The reason it would crush you and stop you is if you let it, if you took on that identity. So don't take it. Don't accept it. Give yourself grace, fix the mistake and pivot, learn from the failure, and then get back on the horse. You know what I want to ask in this episode? I want to ask, if you're willing and you're vulnerable enough like me, comment below, whether you're on Spotify or YouTube or wherever you're at. comment below a mistake you made if you're willing to share, just for the rest of us to see. And maybe this will kind of be a place where we can all realize that, yeah, we're all imperfect. Like, look at all the mistakes that other people have made. If you're brave enough to comment something like that, it took bravery for me to share this kind of stuff. So if you want to make me feel less alone, I appreciate it. If you're still working your way up to finding that bravery, that's okay too. All right, that is it. Hope this humanized the guy you listen to in the podcast from time to time. And thank you so much for listening and for letting me be vulnerable with you guys today. Take care.